Hey everyone, CJ here, diving headfirst into controversy. Okay, to those who don't know me, I make Dungeons & Dragons tutorial videos. I have made a series on how to play the game and how to dungeon master. As part of it, I also talked about world building. I want to revisit this topic again, but for this video, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about what is bad world building, using the most controversial anime of the season,
Goblin Slayer.
Spoiler warning, by the way, because I'm going to discuss all the existing materials from the manga and some things from the light novel. I know, I shouldn't be too harsh, because the source material is a light novel after all. To those of you who don't know what a light novel is, it is Japan's equivalent of a young adult novel. But the contents you get aren't quite your John Green. It is the same industry that's brought you a lesbian elf and a cursed princess, and Harem Castle. Truly the masterpieces that we deserve. What else can you expect? Many of these authors graduated from the web novel scene that's brought you masterpieces such as Flirting with Beast Girls, Doing Nothing But Copulation, and Agreement of Being Gay for 30 Days. But hey, let's not judge a book by its pedigree, shall we? Let's look at the actual premise of the series. The Goblin Slayer world resembles an idyllic fantasy Japanese tabletop RPG setting, but underneath that veneer is a dark and brutal world where even the lowliest monsters, goblins, ravage the land and inexperienced adventurers. Quite literally on the second part. Most adventurers don't want to deal with goblins because the pay is low, but one adventurer, the Goblin Slayer, is the only high-ranked adventurer who is willing to slay goblins. In fact, that is his obsession and he is good at it. Oh, and also waifus, because this is a light novel. Alright, now let's unravel this world into a list of established facts. Don't worry, I know what some of you are here for. I will talk about the rape part later, but we have to get into the basics first. Goblins are weak. They have the strength, speed, and intelligence of human children. They are also considered to be low-threat monsters. It is well known that they are dangerous. They massacre, rape, and pillage, and some of them can even cast deadly spells. What? We haven't gone over 2 points, and we've already got a contradiction here. If they are weak and stupid, how in the world can they do all that? Later on, it is explained that the goblins who survive long enough will gain experience, learn to organize, and become even more dangerous. Some may even evolve into goblin paladins or lords. Obviously, this contradicts fact number 1. Let's say that fact number 1 is an unreliable piece of information. Then, how is it possible for the population to believe something so contradictory to the fact of the world? Especially when goblin attacks are so abundant. Unless there is a powerful propaganda machine that is disseminating false information. Oh, maybe Guild Girl and her adventurer's guild isn't so innocent after all. They might be behind all this fake news to lure in new adventurers to come work for them. Maybe they are the real evil organization profiting from all this chaos. Well, it would be interesting if it was true, but no. There is no indication anywhere that they are an evil organization at all. And it is not our job to fill in the gap for the author. Solid writing, folks. Brought to you by the industry that has also churned out. I am sorry for getting a head start, but I decided to live every day erotically. The in-world explanation why goblin slaying is a low reward job is that there are bigger, meaner things out there, like demons, dragons, and beholders. The king's men and higher ranked adventurers are too preoccupied by these greater threats to deal with the goblins. But we know that the reward system for adventurers seems to be based on market forces. Victims of monsters and those under threat come in with coins, and the guild acts as intermediary by advertising their quests and adventures. So in general, the more dangerous a goblin horde gets, the higher the reward should be. But you might point out that goblins like to attack weaker targets and poor hamlets with pretty women. So these people won't have much rewards to offer. But the strange thing is, why are these people still there to let themselves be easy targets? Monsters' existence has been known for a long time. Why haven't the peasants banded together to form a defended settlement and a militia? Historically, victims and those under threat of violence would flee their homes and become refugees. They would then settle near fortified settlements or join a larger refugee community to form a new settlement, but this time better fortified. Remember, there are bigger threats than goblins too, so even if they are not strictly running away from goblins, they should be running away from the bigger, meaner monsters. Why are these people still staying in vulnerable, isolated hamlets? Can't they think? I know in RPGs there are NPCs, but if you're writing a story, the inhabitants of the world should interact with it. Goblins can learn and gain experience, but the humans can't? How is that possible? Are they literal NPCs? Is the god playing them as miniature, not just a literary device? If that's the case, then why should we care about these dumb, mindless NPCs? Oh yeah, because animated is. Brought to you by the same industry that created When I Was Summoned to Another World with RPG Style, Likes NTR Skill Appear. It is not written in a manga, but the only rational explanation for the peasants to stay in their home is that the reward outweighs the risk. The soil has to be incredibly fertile and they can make a good living from their farm. But then, it means that they would be able to offer a bigger reward, not just small bags of coins. Even if the goblins pillage and steal all the gold on their raid, leaving the victims without any, it actually makes them an even more profitable target, because there would be a cache of treasure in their cave after all the raiding they did. So the economy here doesn't make sense at all. Brought to you by frequenting the brothels and hunting dragons. Okay, now I am going to talk about the tone of the world and we are going to actually discuss the usage of rape in fiction. Rape is not a pleasant thing. It is detestable, disgusting, and it is very rare for any fiction to be able to use it to darken the tone of their world without turning their work into smut. Personally, I don't depict it in any of the campaigns that I run, but I can understand that some authors consider it to be a necessary piece of reality to tell their story with. Then again, it is also a genre in porn, so it is safe to say that not everyone is on board for the deep, engaging story. To be fair, Goblin Slayer uses it as a device to subvert the expectation of readers, dragging them from the seemingly happy-go-lucky JRPG world into a reality of grim, dark, gory fantasy. This ain't your Final Fantasy, bro! What's really weird though is that Goblin seems to be the only ones doing the raping. There are larger monsters that kill, but there doesn't seem to be any other monsters that rape. In Japan, the stereotypical rape monsters are usually the orcs, and orcs are conspicuously absent in this series. So really, the only reason rape is used is to paint the goblins to be exceptionally vile little monsters, to justify the purpose of the protagonist. Then again, why does everyone in the world consider them to be low threats if they are so vile? Also, the grim dark world seems to be applied selectively. It only happens to non-main characters. I have read over 28 chapters of the manga and asked around on Reddit, but apparently none of the main female characters get goblin. It's okay guys, your waifus are safe. There is a close shave with a high elf, but she is still pure. You can safely buy her merchandise. Later on, there is even a scene where the priestess and sword maiden had to sleep with the Goblin Slayer to cast a healing spell to cure his grievous wounds. Even so, no hanky-panky happened. It is just a pure magical catalyst thing, for plot reason. They didn't have sex, guys. Ah, so wholesome. Brought to you by my little sister got hemorrhoid, so I helped her insert the suppository. The girls may get injured and suffer major wounds, but to be honest, I really don't think that anything sexual will happen to them in the future, because it is going to drop their stock in the character otaku market. Their merchandise won't sell if they become quote-unquote used goods. I understand the economic concern for the authors and publishers, but this is not an excuse for creating an inconsistent tone in the world. The premise of this series is that it subverts the happy-go-lucky JRPG world, and Goblin Slayer is the only grim dark mofo who is keeping it real, yo! But in reality, besides his backstory, he is the only one who is living in a bubble of JRPG life. with his harem of anime beauties, while everyone else is living in the goblin rape hellscape. At least Game of Thrones and Berserk has enough in-world consistency to subject important characters to the carnage. No, I'm not saying that equally raping everyone makes a better story, but there is no consistency in the world of Goblin Slayer. In those other works, rape is a reality that everyone may encounter. It is a clear message that the characters are squarely operating within the world's rules. It is not done frivolously either because the events did not put them out of the picture, like some used goods. They become survivors and turned it into a narrative of strength and recovery, adding to their characters' depth. They are trying to not let the act define them forever. Yeah, I know rape as character development is a trope, but this is Goblin Slayer. Oh yeah, goblins are bad because they rape. Look, I understand. A lowly paid author has to hustle, write a bit of sex, and hook the readers in. Of course, not every media you consume has to be some solidly written piece of literature. Goblin Slayer will fit nicely between your copies of Space Raptor Butt Invasion and Seduced by Bigfoot and Ravaged by the Yeti. But hey, let's not pretend that it is anything phenomenal, shall we? Okay, that's it, your top 5 world-building sins. Brought to you by... I use semen in another world and live by relying on others' power. The magical princess twin saints, Futanari Pleasure invades the girls.